our country is the beacon of liberty. Our country was designed around the freedoms of the people. Our country is supposed to be run on the will of the people. The government is there to serve the people. The people are not there to serve the government. That's the way it was designed. Today we see a concerted effort to change that, and we can't let that happen. And then the cornerstone of community, our ability, regardless of what background we come from, to be able to work together. People from so many different backgrounds with so many different talents is the reason that we have been so successful. You know, I could take any ethnic group in this country and take a walk down the street and point out all kinds of things that they contributed to the success of our country. Let's take African Americans, for example. I could start out by pointing to the shoes. It was John Motzliger, a black man who invented the automatic shoe lasting machine, which revolutionized the shoe industry throughout the world. And you step on that clean street, Charles Brooks, a black man, invented the automatic street sweepers with the big brushes. Down that street comes a big refrigerated tractor trailer truck. It was Frederick Jones, a black man who invented the refrigeration system for trucks, later adopted for airplanes and trains, boats. And it comes to a stop at the red light, and you tell them it was Garrett Morgan, a black man who invented the traffic signal. And you can tell how he invented the gas mask, saved lots of lives during the war. And while you're talking about the war, Henrietta Bradbury, a black woman who invented the underwater cannon, made it possible to launch torpedoes from submarines. And you see a beautiful black woman walking down the street. A black man did not invent her. But you can use that opportunity to talk about Madam C.J. Walker, a black woman who invented cosmetic products for women of dark complexion, the first woman of any nationality in this country to become a millionaire on her own efforts. And you walk past the hospital, Charles Drew and his contributions to blood banking and an understanding of the function of plasma. And Daniel Hale Williams, the first successful open heart surgery in the world, had an operative mortality rate less than 1.5%. You look up at the surgical light, Thomas Edison. You didn't know he was black, did you? Well, he wasn't. But his right-hand man, Lewis Latimer, was. You can tell how he came up with the filament that made the light bulb work for more than 2 or 3 days, invented the electric lamp, diagrammed the telephone for Alexander Graham Bell, tremendous inventor in his own right. You pass the railroad tracks, Andrew Beard, the automatic railroad car coupler, spurred on the Industrial Revolution. Elijah McCoy, the automatic lubrication system for locomotive engines, had so many great inventions. People were always trying to imitate him, and people would say, is that a McCoy? Is that the real McCoy? That's where the term comes from. You got racist people like David Duke saying the real McCoy don't even know who he's paying homage to. And I'm just barely scratching the surface. But you know what is great about America? I can take that same walk down the street for any nationality, point out tremendous contributions. Our diversity is our advantage. And we have people teaching errant things to our students to try to make them feel that our country is evil. For instance, that there's something uniquely evil about America because of slavery. A good reading of history will tell you that every society has dealt with slavery since there's been written history. And there are more slaves in the world today than there have ever been at any point in time when you look at human trafficking. And the major consumer of that is the United States of America. So believe me, we have some real problems right here with human rights that we need to be concerned about. We don't have to go back and dig up something 200 years ago. But if there is something unique about America and slavery, it's that we had so many people who were vehemently opposed to it that we were willing to fight a bloody civil war and lose a large portion of our population in order to get rid of that evil institution. That's what we need to teach our children about America. And we have tried incessantly to live up to the standards of that Constitution. Go back and read about our Constitution and the people who put it together and how they studied virtually every civilization that had ever existed, every government, and extracted the best parts and left out the worst parts. They recognize, you can tell from the way it's written, they recognize that we would come to this point where there would be those who were trying to fundamentally change this country into something else. And they knew that the only thing that would save us is us, we the people, armed with our Constitution, which means we need to understand what is in that Constitution, and we cannot let it be changed. We can't let a whole bunch of people pack the courts and change all kinds of systems in order to get their way and act like little children with tantrums. But the only thing that will stop them is us and having courage. And that's what I want to end talking about courage. You know, I remember when I was a resident, and one night I was on call, and it was a time that we were having a big neurosurgical conference in another part of the country. So virtually all the attendings had gone to the conference, except one that was left behind to deal with emergencies. And a young man was brought in who had been severely beaten with a baseball bat. And he was unconscious, and he was rapidly losing function. And I knew the only thing that could save him was a radical operation in which we took out part of the frontal lobe and part of the temporal lobe in order to create space in his skull. I had never done such an operation before, but even if I had, I couldn't do it by myself because I was a resident, so I called for the attending, couldn't reach him. The nurses called for the attending, couldn't reach him. Paging operator called for the attending, couldn't reach him. The young man was dying. I'm a resident, I can't take him to the operating room legally. And I prayed and I said, Lord, you got to show me what to do. I can't just watch him die. And I felt so calm after that prayer. And I took him to the operating room, and everything came back to me, and the operation was a great success. And today that young man is a psychologist who helps a lot of other young people. But I never got in any trouble. I never got in trouble. In fact, I was praised for making the right decision. And you know, we need to be thinking about what we can do to save our country. We are beyond that time when we can know what the right things are to do, but we just stand in the corner with our head down and hope no one calls us a nasty name. That doesn't work. We have to be willing to fight for what we believe in.